Good afternoon. We're going to get started with our top producer panel. Before we do have our afternoon sponsor, Elite Home Watchers. So we're going to ask Tom to come up and tell us about his company.
Well, thank you all very much for letting me come and talk to you for a second this afternoon.
Sorry.
Well, thank you again for letting me come up and talk to you this afternoon. If anybody didn't get a chance to put their card in for the drawing, we have a critical component for every realtor's toolkit that we're gonna be giving out today. So feel free to give us your card if you want to join. Does everybody know what Home Watch is? Has everybody heard about that? So for your clients that have second homes, they live somewhere else during the summer and they come down here for the winters, they leave those homes empty for any length of time. There's a lot of things that can happen, especially in a humid environment. So we have most of our clients in our business for Elite Home Watchers are in Lakewood Ranch. We serve Bradenton, Sarasota, and Lakewood Ranch. And we've had a new construction, air conditioning units go out. It takes less than 30 days for mold to start forming. If a home is left unoccupied for more than 2 weeks, most insurance companies consider it abandoned. So they won't, if something that's normally covered happens during that time, and there's no documented proof that anybody's been looking at the house or in the house, then they might not cover that claim. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong if you leave your house unoccupied. If a lot of your clients might say, well, I'll just have my neighbors watch the house. There's a recent story in the news just this summer about somebody that did just that. And in a 3-month period or 3 to 6 month period, their neighbor proceeded to steal over $15,000 worth of items from their home. So when they thought they were watching the home for them. So there's just all kinds of reasons that you want to get a certified, insured, licensed home watch company to help your clients. So if you have any clients with second homes and have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
You're not supposed to look.
Oh. Well, you draw it.
Steph, can you see, are you on camera?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that everybody can see your voice.
And I don't have my Angie Walters.
Angie Walters?
Angie Walters. All right.
Okay. All right, good afternoon. Glad you made it. I'm Ray Collins. I'm honored to be the moderator today. Thank you very much. For those of you watching at home, thank you for tuning in today. We've got two high-performing realtors from very different backgrounds. One of them is from Georgia, one's from England. And by the end, tell me which one is which, you think? It might be a job. Dirk, yesterday we were talking about the borders of downtown, and I thought it'd be an easy question. But before we get into that first question, tell me more about your background, how you got here. You start first, and then Andrew, you go next. Go ahead.
Well, I grew up in Colorado, college at Oklahoma University. Worked for many years in the oil and gas business, leasing mineral rights from farmers and ranchers all through Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of California. Company that I worked for was bought out and decided it was a good time to leave. My mother lived on Bird Key and I had been here many times. So I came out here and moved and thought that transitioning from leasing thousands of acres of mineral rights from farmers and ranchers might just transcend to being able to list and sell real estate here in Sarasota.
And it worked out very well for you.
So far.
All right, Dirk Dahl from Caldwell Banker and Andrew Tanner now from Premier Sotheby's. How'd you wind up here, my friend?
Good afternoon. I'm from England, born and raised.
You're the one.
God save the king.
The king.
And God bless the queen. I moved to New York when I was about 22, 23. Had a business in New York City for 18 years. Met my wife there and decided we would not like to raise children in the city. And she had some family, has some family in Sarasota, Florida. And so we came here quite often and realized what a wonderful place it was.
Right.
My business in York was completely unrelated to what I do now, but in the last 20 years of having my license and letting it lapse at one point, so reminder, don't let that happen. I've been in and around real estate ever since then, from developments to high-end residential.
Very good. And you've been here about 18, 20 years now, right?
That's correct. About
Yeah.
20 years.
In general, any advice for people looking to get more involved with our fellow realtors here? Advice?
If we're speaking about, let's talk about resales first.
Okay.
In resales, because there are so many buildings in downtown Sarasota, it's very important for a realtor to understand those buildings, their ages, approximately how many units they have in them, their price per square foot sales. Again, we're going to fall into some of the older buildings or future challenges they may have. But to be able to understand area by area in downtown, Golden Gate is one area. Palm and Gulfstream is a totally separate area. Burns Court is another completely different area. And they all offer certain different things. You know, like Golden Gate Point's almost like a suburb to downtown.
Right.
It's in downtown, but it's a little private suburb. It's also the highest price per square foot area of Sarasota.
Golden Gate Point.
Golden Gate Point.
More than Gulfstream.
Gordon Gulfstream. Gordon Gulfstream. It's average. If you look at it right now, it's average for its pendings. In the last 90 days, it's pendings, its sales, and active are all $1,200 a square foot on average.
Wow. Andrew, where do most of your leads come from? I know you're on a team, but where do you think most of your leads come from?
I'd say most of our business is referrals or existing clients. We may have, for example, an existing client that has a house on Long Key that we sold to them maybe 5 years ago, and they're ready to be more involved in the downtown environment, vibrant environment, better restaurants downtown now, so they don't want to deal with the Ringling Bridge. So they're looking for a client. Their grandkids have gone, kids have gone. You know, they don't need that space anymore. But otherwise, I'd say at least 50% of my business is referral business from out of town through
From out of town.
from out of town.
How do they learn about you?
I'm part of the groups that realtors across the country, and we get together on Zoom calls a couple of times a week, a month, and we talk about projects that are going in our different environments. We'll even go to a different city once a year and we all meet together, and just cross generation work.
Do you also market yourself in England?
No, they kicked me out there a long time.
Sore subject. How do you generate a lot of your leads, Dirk?
Oh, gosh, I market downtown heavily and have for many years, through newsletters, digital advertising.
You mean social media?
No, Google advertising company called AdWorks.
Mhm.
You know, I own a number of different, zip code ads. And I use those a lot for the new construction that I do. And going back real quick, they talked about resales. In new sales, the opportunity for a realtor with a client could be fabulous. If you take your buyer and register them with the different developments, go through the presentations, and allow the developer's team to really take over the process. All right, you're the minute they register you, go into a registration system, and you architect them, you're going to get paid. And they're going to make you look good because they're going to copy you on everything. You're going to be a part of everything that's happening. But those teams are being paid to do a lot of the work, if not most of it. To be confident, that's one of the beautiful things about having a buyer in new construction is that you're going to keep them right to closing. You're going to get paid 50% after the rescission period at some point, and then 2 years later, 18 months later, another check comes in. And
Yeah.
your buyer likes you and probably will refer you to somebody else.
Do you spend half your time with current clients and half trying to generate new clients? Or is it 10-90 or 90-10? How would you say your time is split up?
So, being part of the group, we have our own marketing director, and she produces a wonderful e-newsletter once a month. And that gets sent out to our circle of influence, if you like. And so a lot of the incoming opportunities are sourced through that. And the e-news people are new people we do like, and we advertise through Facebook in certain catchment areas, certain zip codes where you have high net worth people that are coming to Sarasota. We also, if we have a listing or a sale from the buyer side, we'll send out letters to everybody in that condo building saying what we've achieved for one of their neighbors and how can we help them. So a lot of that goes from the background speech of myself personally. That leaves me to really get involved in sales and just talking to business clients.
So is it 50-50, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Want to chime in on that at all? Do you spend as much time generating future clients as you do with your current clients, so their current projects, or how would you say your time is broken up?
My time is mainly with my current clients because I get my future clients through them.
Well said. Yeah. I've asked a lot of my questions. I've got more, but I'll make sure you're getting what you need out of this as well. So does anyone have a question? They want to help shape this dialogue right now at all? If not, go ahead.
Dirk quoted a number of square foot statistics from 1 year ago to now. As I couldn't hear him very well, could he please repeat that? Was he referring to the builder square footage cost or sold price square?
Question on square footage cost.
It was developers cost to build a unit, not counting his land cost. It's gone from $375 a square foot to $625 a square foot in a 12-month period.
Right. Questions at all right now? I saw your question first, then you go next. Go ahead.
Ray, please repeat the question and ask so that people here on the web can hear the question.
How should people spend their time to develop their business?
I would think, Resale has a lot of information for you, as well as a lot of the classes they offer, as well as your broker. Talk to your broker. They have experience, so they can direct you to the right place. Or come and talk to us.
Dirk?
Again, your brokerage, if your brokerage is downtown, especially, you're going to have a number of different agents that are very knowledgeable about the downtown area. Speaking with them would be one. Two, the multi-listing system.
Right.
Just take it, just circle in on the map system and go from building to building to understand it. And there's a couple of websites that realtors have that you can click on to and get a really quick synopsis of the different buildings in downtown.
Right.
And
study it.
And study it.
Yeah. Question right there.
I just have a comment going back to this because it itself is the design district, just as an identity.
Yeah.
Throw that out.
The Rosemary identity is it? Go ahead.
Or
Yeah.
bad.
That Allison sold 352 Coconut. Did a great job there.
Was that Mark Famiglio's building? Yeah. Yeah. Good. I saw one more hand over there. Yes. The former colony on Longboat Key.
And then they started it, but now it was because of all of the new statutes coming, because there's above
Yeah.
stories. So
Okay.
how once you start something, does it switch?
Okay, a question about the former colony, now St. Regis, where it's now obviously over 3 stories. And how do you already, I believe that those who bought there have had to pay more money since they bought.
That did take place.
Yeah.
It's a 13% increase in price, and goes to what we were just speaking about. But obviously, anything that's under construction currently is being built to a code standard that was far higher than the code standard of anything that was built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s.
It's not a 25-year-old building, obviously it's brand new, so they're not,
Be built to code.
not under the microscopes like the older buildings are. Yeah,
So what actually happened?
to the former colony.
Yeah, like how, look up the documentary. One day everybody was kind of going out, and the next day nobody was there. So
Yeah.
the holdover people that stayed and held the timeshares, and what some of that.
Well, the way the colony was set up, and again, the colony's been gone for a long time and out of sight, out of mind, is that folks owned condos in there and they were rented through the management company, the family that had it, and there was a legal fallout between the two entities, the ownership of the condos and the owners of the management section, the hotel, etc. It all worked itself out to where St. Regis is being built on.
Yeah, who would have thought 15 years ago that the top tennis resort in the country was going to get knocked down? And, you know, I've heard various theories that I wouldn't want to go on the record talking about, but it's a shame that happened. It was a nice place to have, but this new one looks beautiful as well.
It does look beautiful. Fun as the Monkey Bar was.
Yeah.
and the new bar is-
I'm sure you passed out cards there, right? Okay, who else has a question? Anybody else? Back in downtown here? Patty? The parcel involving the Players Theater, any ideas?
Whatever it is, it's going to be 18 stories high.
Really?
18, it's 18. And, you know, there's in the city of Sarasota, we all know there's different levels of height that you can build on. But what a lot of folks don't realize is it doesn't necessarily limit the height of the building itself. All right. Now you can have two 18-story buildings. One of them is 180 foot, and one of them is 260 foot. All right, just by the increase of how tall the parking garages are inside, 12-foot ceilings, 10-foot ceilings, 9-6 ceilings, whatever.
Have you ever driven by, everything okay? Not exactly, huh? Whenever I go by Gulfstream and look at those two high 18-story buildings side by side, about 6 feet apart, I scratch my head that that was ever approved like that. And also the lawsuit that have since filed in either direction.
Yeah, the thing that the city of Sarasota runs into is they can't deny what they have approved for a parcel that has the same zoning. They can't. All right, and that parcel that was approved for Epic just happened to set out a little further than the 624 did, and so it gave that illusion. They're almost one building, depending on where you get to. But the city is a lot of times they're bound by having to allow what is zoned to be built.
And that's what it is. I covered the story about the Essex house that was very upset about the 18-story building going in next door. And then one working in next to them. It was quite a boondoggle legally as well. I think it's over by now. I jotted down some of the new projects that I read about recently, and we feel free to chime in. In fact, we should give you the courtesy of starting with when you're involved in. Dirk's involved in something called the Edge. It's 27 units, 10 stories, ranging between 1.2 and 3.7 million. Remind us where the location is exactly.
The location is on the south side of Fruitville, so it's in core downtown, at the corner of Fruitville and Coconut, just off of 2nd Street. 27 units, 10-story building. Again, it's one of these 10-story buildings that's going to be probably the tallest 10-story building in town, because we have 12-foot park, 12-foot parking garages, 12-foot ceilings, and 14-foot ceilings in the penthouse.
Wow.
So just very expensive to build, it lifts it way up.
You mentioned the parking for a second. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Jared, what is the price point for units with water view of any kind, if there's such a thing, with the edge?
It starts at 2.6 million and goes to about 3.7.
So where would water view price points start at?
There's 4 sections to the building. 3 of the stacks all have some type of water view. And obviously, because it is an urban building, they're all corridor views.
Beso is 149 units, 18 stories, sold out. Villa Bellata, which means House of Harmony in Kumquat, Rosemary District. That's coming. 22 units, 5 stories, ranging from 840,000 to 2.2.
That is a great example of what's happening in Rosemary. And they're selling their price per square, they're somewhere around $750 a square foot. So a couple of $100 a square foot lower than what you'll find in core downtown. But its address is Kumquat. Kumquat was for many, many years the drug street of downtown Sarasota.
Overnight, it seemed to have changed. It's amazing how it no longer is. Also, relatively affordable, relatively nearby in Rosemary, the Collage on 5th. Collage on 5th is 7 units, 5 stories, ranging from 700,000 to 2 million. One park, of course, is a different story, 123 units, 18 stories, ranging from 2 to 10 million, with one costing 14 million, penthouse there. The Collection on 2nd Street, 12 units, 10 stories, ranging from 1.3 to 3.3. Are you aware of that at all?
Yeah, I sold the penthouse.
We didn't
4.+.
We didn't set that up. Good for you. And Golden Gate Point 688, 10 units, 9 stories, 2.5 to 11.9.
It is, and 688 is being developed by the Van Dyke Group that developed 188. And 188 in of itself, and that was some product, and it also really changed pricing in Sarasota. It was the first downtown condominium to average over $1,000 a square foot. Won all kinds of architectural awards and really set a new standard in Sarasota. And if you're not familiar with 688, take a look at it. It's going to set another structural standard in this town. It will.
Also in Golden Gate, On Point, 4 units, just 4 units, 5 stories, ranging from 2.6 to 3.2 million.
Be one of those mini projects that you talked about that's going to happen on Golden Gate Point. A lot of the current residents on Golden Gate Point are starting to rise up. It's going to be too much density, too much traffic. To get in the city of Sarasota has to allow what it's zoned for.
Is there going to be a shaking out at some point, or will the city have to recalibrate, or what do you think?
Well, I think the natural course of development in Florida is going to be a downturn at some point. It's going to happen, so it'll just slow itself down naturally, and then at some point there'll be another cycle.
You had a nice time with the Strand, of course. You were very involved in the Strand, farther up toward the North Trail. What did we learn from that?
We learned the supply chain does end during the pandemic. We were rolling through that. We were ahead of schedule. Had increased the subcontractor force from 1.2 million a month to 1.6 million. And then all of a sudden we couldn't get materials. Wow. We just sat. Yeah. We just sat. But now we have the entire waterfront buildings closed out.
Right.
And we'll start closing out the remaining 44 units in the full building. It was a total of 146 units.
I thought I saw a resale. Is that possible?
There are some resales, not as many as I thought there would be. I did all the walkthroughs, 100 walkthroughs.
Oh.
Yeah. And people say, no, I'm not selling. No, I'm not selling. So that original 104 that were, 102 that were closed. There's been 2 that have sold, and there's 3 for sale right now. And they've appreciated between 38 and 42%.
Okay, good. That's the Strand, of course, on the North Trail on the west side of the road. Demarque, 30 units, 18 stories, ranging from 700 to 4.3. That project has evolved in the past few years, hasn't it?
Well, it just took a long time to get done. It was started and anticipated a long time ago. And of course, there they happened to retain the original front of the hotel
Facade, yeah.
facade,
Yeah.
and of course, it's very narrow lot, so it's very specific. Built.
Originally, they had plans to have your car go up the elevator to your unit.
It did.
That was changed.
It was. That is one tough site to build because there was no staging area.
The Demarque, of course, next to 1350 on Palm, very narrow building.
And the construction company that's doing that really needs to be commended on how they have been able to allow Palm to continue to operate itself. They've done a lot better job than a lot of us in the industry thought they were going to be able to build that building.
Right. Any thoughts about that parcel just down the road farther south where Carajulos is? There was some, what do you know about that? Let's talk about selling that building.
Well, the developer would like to build it,
Yeah.
and it's in the downtown area, and they want to keep the facade. I mean, frankly speaking, it's an old building. Eventually, the amount of cost to keep it up to code or to current standards without renovating it dramatically, I think they have a good point.
Yeah.
The Seaward has looked at developing that contract on it and ended up, from my understanding, not wanting to move forward on it. It's also my understanding the northern section of that building has far more structural challenges than the south section does. Yeah. And I think the current ownership that would like to knock it down themselves if they have to.
Any other questions before we head toward closing thoughts? Any other questions? Oh,
Questions in the chat.
go ahead.
We'll wait if you guys have questions.
Yes.
I just have one about the resale market. We didn't see those prices dropping at all.
Question about the resale market and my prices drop. Shaking your head already.
Well, I think it comes back to supply and demand, doesn't it? It comes back to who's willing to come here and who's willing to pay the price. I mean, properties are still having multiple offers, still going above us. If the building is right, if the property is right, you're still going to see that. I think we'll always see that because it's going to be a long time before we have enough inventory to balance it out.
And the new construction is helping the resale market because the new construction through a lot of advertising to bring people into Sarasota.
Right.
And those downtown resales, you can wait 18 months to 2 years or buy this one.
So when you hear local trends, downtown is a different animal, correct? From the rest of the region of Sarasota, Manatee? Downtown's warmer than the rest.
I mean, obviously, Burger Key, Lido, Westway. Those are all single family homes. In the condo market, absolutely.
Yeah, the condos on Lido and then Longboat Key, it seems there's nothing at that. So, I mean, the people that are moving to Sarasota, that possibly, 20 years ago they moved in, I'm gonna have a condo on Longboat Key. And those folks now live downtown, vacated those ones on Longboat Key and they're rejuvenated, that can look attractive to it by coming and being on the beach.
If people ask you for a single family home in downtown, you direct them toward the Laurel District?
Probably more west of Trail, on the Hillview area, Harbor Acres would be more than Laurel Park. Because as wonderful as Laurel Park, there's a lot of older product in there, sitting on smaller lots.
But for those who want downtown.
So if you're looking for pure downtown, Laurel Park is a single family go-to. Absolutely right.
Yeah, and I mean, you can talk about Gillespie being more developed, but it's still about the specific areas. Laurel Park, when we moved to 20 years ago, my wife said, campaigning in the spring in New York, so you take manual and said Western Trail.
Yeah.
That's Southside Village. I'm going back to New York, so we've been there ever since. It's a wonderful location, good sized lots, good sized homes, good schools, close to the hospital. So that the hospital is a huge draw for people and the family close to that.
That's a beautiful stretch of real estate there. Yes,
When you're talking about Hillview, can you make either one of you comment about what's really going on the east side of the trail across the street from the hospital, where Notice and Courtyard Builders just completely changing the face of that neighborhood?
question about east of the trail around the hospital.
You know, what's happening over there is a reaction to how expensive land costs has become west of trail. 5 years ago, you could buy a lot on the west side between $375 and $450,000 to get on square footage. And you can't buy an east side lot for that now. So what developed the east side was the big price increases on the west side. It's something that in Sarasota real estate we've been predicting and waiting for 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you asking about the hotel plans there or the residential?
Well, the residential mostly, the way that
You're
aesthetically,
right. The sites,
I
the
feel like when you drive through there, there's people just losing their minds.
Yeah.
They lost their mind on the west side first.
Yeah.
And concentrate the opportunities on the east side. But it's actually something that we have been predicting would happen for the last 30 years in Sarasota, the east side along the hospital area, the flower streets.
Yeah.
That would happen.
yeah.
And it almost happened in 05 until that bust.
Right.
And this cycle it has.
There's some beautiful houses east of the trail.
There are.
Pick and shoot. We had anyone else in person here? Okay, online, go ahead.
So they are having problems with hearing, and so we changed their mic, so they're asking to repeat a couple of things, so please bear with us.
Okay.
What developments are planned for the area around Revo at Ring Lake?
Developments around Revo on Ring Lane, perhaps Main Street?
Yeah, Main Street, there's the building that's on the north side of Revo is for sale. Currently for sale. I'm trying to think what's in there right now. Is that restaurant? We changed name.
There's an Italian restaurant there in Main.
On Revo.
Yeah.
Okay, on the north side of Revo and Main Street, there's a small building.
Yeah.
Fabio's.
I think they said.
Obvious.
That's for sale.
Okay.
Several developers have looked at it, again, it's fallen into that. What they want for it, and what it's gonna cost to build, it's just not making sense right now. It may make a lot more sense when the pizza place goes down and that gets developed. And it takes one to start it.
Right.
You know, it takes one to start it. It was $13.50.
Yeah, remember that? Sold out in 71.
There was a time,
Yeah.
in downtown that, you know, between the sports page, which is where the Jewel is,
Recall.
and what's the dance club? On one. Cake club. thank
Oh,
you.
man.
The downtown.
That new place? Yeah.
Locked up. With nothing going on.
I know. There's a change in the residential units downtown the past 15 years.
And then obviously the 1350 and Closet 5 Points and 100 Central Grid, those are the ones that really created what we know is downtown now.
Yeah.
Right? And then developers came in and started building hotels in downtown. And we all know there was a time if you wanted to come into downtown Sarasota, you had to stay at the Hyatt. There wasn't anywhere else. Then all of a sudden, Aloft got built, Weston got built, the Modern got built, the Ovation got built, the nicest skin in the MC Suite, the suites in the world got built. You know, and all of a sudden there were 700 hotel rooms that people could come to Sarasota and stay during the season, which they weren't able to do for many years. And created, that's one of the things that built create the boom in downtown Sarasota
Hotel rooms,
was, yes, the availability to get into Sarasota,
because 15 years ago, we were underserved.
going from one hotel
Yeah,
to many hotels.
are you saying that led to more residential construction?
More kind of construction. It was, if you look at when those started coming out, those finished up and people started being able to use them, it links to the new projects we have going right now. Baso was the first one in front of it all. Coulter was the first one that was really in front of it all. And Coulter obviously owns the west and they now own the Embassy Suites. They bought it from Jim Bridges. They have a wonderful hospitality division that I didn't even know existed.
Will Embassy Suites stay the same, pretty much?
If they're under the current contract, will keep it in Embassy Suites for several years,
Okay.
unless they buy themselves out of it, which is not cheap.
What do you know? I'm going to take you over to the area of 301 and Main Street, where that parking lot is right now. For a while, there was talk about a hotel there. Is there anything planned anymore for 301 and Main on the northeast corner?
Right across from the county building.
Yeah.
That's county laws.
Yeah, but for a while, it was on the drawing board.
There's no drawing board for a hotel. I think that because so many other hotels came up at the same time, they were in core downtown, and those folks saw the numbers didn't work, or their lenders, probably the lenders saw it.
I think Bavaro's built their restaurant thinking there was more going on in the parking lot. Now there's just more parking for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
What is being built at Coconut and Forest for the lot of things there?
Coconut and Thorpe, where the lot is being cleared.
That is,
Drake,
Alice, you may know more actually about that, because it's causing your 332 project.
it's still on file as Drake.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had to clear the site because their tree permit was going to be
It's
expired.
tree permit, yeah,
But
where they have the visual for those
didn't
Cuban
have any-
morals.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it'll be developed. It's a great spot. Again, that what we talked about earlier, where probably the best place where Rosemary and downtown have met at Coconut.
Sir?
Are you aware of any conversation going on the north side of Fruitville from 301 down to Orange? A lot of the single family frame houses.
Question about
You mean the ones that are on Fruitville, you mean the
Yes.
restaurants and such,
Yes.
those,
Obviously, that's going to be developed at some point. Yeah, a lot of them individually owned. There's one fella who does own more than 4 or 5 of them in that 4th Street square, who has just recently sold some of his property on 2nd Street, next to the Embassy Suites, those 2 Adobe buildings.
and part of that's owned by the church as well, right? It's, yeah, Fruitville and Orange. The northeast corner is owned by the church, by Catholic Church.
Yes,
You're talking a little bit about recent.
yeah, go ahead.
Do you know any information about Coconut and 10th where the Sarasota Spa and Salon is?
Coconut and 10th for the Sarasota Spa and Salon.
that's going to be one of the challenged areas. How I talked about in Coconut, you start having an angle down towards Orange, and it's centered around, just to be blunt, it's centered around the Salvation Army.
Yeah, it's across the old Broadway bar, right? Okay, corner.
Caddy one there, the Salvation Army is going to challenge the northern part of, it is what it is.
Yeah, right. Kitty corner or candy corner?
Caddy
It's a kitty corner bubble.
corner around Chester.
Yes.
Have you heard of any talk about moving the Salvation Army?
And you talk about the Salvation Army moving, having worked across the street in ABC 7 for years, that was a huge issue there. That's why we had gates. But I don't think there's any talking. You can update us.
I've heard no talk of it, and that is one of those. That's one of those things that it's going to have at some part of the public will really challenged.
Yeah, that was a huge issue too, the homeless in downtown. We didn't really touch on that. Is that situation improving?
I think it's improved tremendously
Yeah.
from what it was, in 04, 05 and during the recession.
Yeah.
You know.
You must have had clients who are walking down Main Street with ask you about the homeless situation.
I had a couple other contracts that said there's a bum sleeping in my front door.
And you said? True, confirmed it.
No, I didn't say that.
Go ahead.
Actually, I want that issue too, we're selling $1 million condos downtown and how it's get around how the salvation being so close to all of these luxury condos.
How do you deal with the homeless here in luxury
Well,
condos?
you mean that city government and local charities is going to have to resolve that. Again, I think where homeless was going
Yeah,
had drawn itself way back from what this potential was it could have been a lot worse than it is right now.
well, you know, yeah, I'm sorry, real quickly, back in 04, Sarasota made some sort of a national list, the meanest city in the country. Because the police had kicked some homeless out of sleeping on benches along the bayfront. So the city might have overreacted to that meanest survey and overcompensated. And suddenly the homeless said, Sarasota's the place to go. They built the Salvation Army. There was talk about a homeless shelter. Some said, if we build it, will they come? Homeless were driven up from Naples and dropped off.
Petersburg dropped off.
Yeah, a lot of things happened there. I also want to send a shout out to two brokers in the room right now that represent all of us here. Craig Serrata is here from Premier Sotheby's. Craig, good to see you. That day, our broker in the back from Banker. Any other brokers here to acknowledge? Any other brokers at this moment? No. Any other questions in the room? Right. Somebody even pointed to her. You're being modest? Okay. Question online or in person? If not, we'll go to closing comments. Let's get back to your day. Anything else? All right. Closing comments about whatever you want to say. Blank canvas, working realtors, wanting to learn more about the downtown Sarasota situation right now. Closing thoughts you might not have said yet. Andrew.
Well, I think it's something we can be proud of. I think the last 20 years, the development of downtown Sarasota, it's a wonderful town now that you can really hang your hat on as a realtor and be proud of, because after this, Sarasota was Dwayne's first town that we've done about 180 across the country. And so following the same principles of what we're going to be adopted here or recommended be adopted here. So it's really been grown methodically, thoughtfully, and so you should really be selling it. Yeah.
Closing comments, Dirk?
Well, echoing Andrew's well said closing thoughts is the future of selling downtown is going to continue. We may go through a cycle, we may not coming up. There's a lot of opportunity for new development, which is going to make resales even better for us. And just remember that as realtors, we're only as good as our next sale.
Well said. Big hand for Dirk Dahl and Andrew Tanner. I'm Ray Collins, also from Caldwell Banker downtown, and thank you very much for your support today. I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching from home, and thanks to Regent for doing this in the first place. Thank you, folks.